Okay, and we're live. Good to see you, George. I said you were just giving us an update on your mom. If you could let us know what's happening, I'm sure people are listening are interested.
Yeah. So we've got an appointment next Tuesday, finally, with the oncologist, and then following up with that will be a treatment specialist. So we don't really know a whole lot. What amazes me, it's been 3 weeks to a month since we originally found out about everything, and now we're finally just getting in for the appointment. But I mean, that's at least it's progression, right? It's moving forward. So
right. They've got their protocol and how they handle stuff and how they tell you things too.
Yes.
Everything's very carefully worded. No matter what it is, my only offer of suggestion is to don't Google shit.
Yep.
But you're gonna look at the numbers. When I, first was diagnosed, I'm like, okay, what are my chances here? Right.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna do that, but then just try not to, it sucks. The whole thing sucks. There's no good thing about it. Right.
No, and Google is the fucking worst thing that you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've Googled small stomach cramps and then believed I was gonna fucking die. Right. Yeah. I remember I was never put out as a child. Right. Never had fucking broken arms or anything like that. So I never had to be put under for surgery. So the very first time that I had to be put under for surgery, the internet was already around. So of course I Google anesthesia and being put out, and then I think it was like one in. I can't even remember what the fucking number was. It was something ridiculous, astronomical. Like you're not gonna fucking die from it. But my head went right to, oh my god, I'm gonna be that one.
Right, of course, because that's how we're geared. We want. Yeah, that's just what happens. So, yeah, I'm like, So again, it's it'll be you just fucking deal with it, ups and downs, and try just to spend time and
because you never know. You fucking never know.
She'll steer the decision-making process, right? So, and really whatever she decides, that's like, it's, in my opinion, it's her life, right? So, she wants to, go out the way she wants to go out. If that's a decision to be made, so be it. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I had a lot of things to talk about, but speaking of good news, a friend of mine died Monday. His name's Drew Gibbs, and it's a shock. I mean, we if anybody's like, I hardly post myself on Facebook, but if you saw, I did post something about him, and just a long story short, or no, it's actually going to be long because I really want to talk about certain things about. There's Drew right there. I want to talk certain things about what made Drew awesome and how, these are things how you should strive if you're an instructor, a teacher, a coach, a human being, as things that you should strive to be. So he graduated high school same time my brother did. So he's about 6 years older than me. He's 59. And what happened was, as luck would have it, our high school football team, we were playing their high school football team for the state championship. So Drew, when my senior year, he was our offensive coordinator. And I met him senior year. It's so long ago. I can't remember. I think he was there from the beginning when we got our new coaches, but he was there our junior year. So I've known this guy since I was about 16. After college, I came back. I started coaching wrestling at my old high school, and Drew came on and started coaching with me. We coached that for about 3 or 4 years. So there's a chunk of time where Drew and I spent a lot of time together. And later he continued. He went back to coach college for a little bit, then came back to Ridgewood as the offensive coordinator. Was there a total of like 10 years coaching football and wrestling. Really, there's like, everyone talks about, their instructor and how their instructor's great and their teachers and, they're great. And I'm going to tell you, we naturally give so much respect to people who we put in positions of authority, right? I want my instructor to be the best. I want my teacher to be the best. I want my coach to be the best. And I said, I've had like literally, I would say dozens of coaches for extended periods of times. And there's only been like 2, and both of them I had in high school that had the big 3. The big 3 are knowledge, okay, knowing what you're talking about. I mean, everybody naturally assumes to know what you're talking about. But a lot of times if you start to read between these things, you'll know when somebody's full of shit or not. 1. 2 is compassion, to really give a crap about the human beings that you're around. And, while the goal of varsity and college athletics is to win, the real goal is it's a weird balance of, trying to win, putting the best team out there and making sure no soul is left behind. Right. So you want to be able to, hey, you're not starting for me. You could be the 3rd string, place kicker, but if you have a problem, I'm going to help you. Because why? Because you're here every day and you're a part of a team, and team is what matters. That's what makes it work. Team, society, community, that's what makes it work. And the last one is a moral compass. He wasn't a type of person to be like, hooking up with someone's mom, right? Or is your instructor the type of person that, bangs their students, right? And which happens more than not, so you've got these 3 pillars of being a good instructor and a good coach and which means you're a good friend, you're a good member of the community. And most people don't have them all. Most people, you could get a guy's a really good guy, but, he really didn't know, strategy that well, or, smart guy or girl, knew the sport, really cared about me, but then wind up, hooking up with, somebody's mom or dad. Right. So, and I think we put, too much emphasis on, one or the other. People put a lot of shit, a lot of emphasis on knowledge. Well, he knows the game. He can do the job. Right. But the reality is what's more important are the other 2.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you have somebody who knows that, listen, I'm here. And especially if you're doing something like a contact sport, or, then you upgrade it to like, you're a first responder, you're in the military, and this is what leadership, where there is, injury, right? And there's a physical risk and well-being in what you're in the task that you're trying to accomplish. They've got to have compassion, and they've got to be making sure that you're safe. Right. And you're challenged in a way that is appropriate for who you are. And also make sure that, you're pushing. I mean, look, when I was coaching with him, I was just out of college. He was like the voice of reason. And he was only like, 6 years older than me. When he was coaching me in high school, he was like 22, 24 years old. I'm like 16, 18 years old. Right. He's like my big brother. So, then as time went on, you go about your separate ways. And I would see him once every 3-6 months, maybe a year. I'd see him at some sporting event. We're always like, we'd, spend a couple minutes, catch up. And then that's it. That's it. Our circles change. I mean, but if you start looking at, look up Drew Gibbs, look at posts, look at, what everyone's saying. I mean, there's some saying that, people will pay lip service. I'm going to tell you right now, this guy, he was the guy. A lot of like, these types of old school, archetypes get, maybe some bad rap sometime, nowadays, but, you're out there, he loved his players loved him. look, we all made mistakes. I'm sure, you don't get to a certain spot without doing that. But I mean, man, he was just like a funny story. It's just that he was just real, and of course, like, once this happens, our phone's kind of blowing up a little bit. Because again, what happened to him is practice on Monday night, preparing to play us this Friday, which has been postponed until next Friday. He collapsed from chest pains, and what happened is his aorta burst.
Oh shit.
So yeah, he had the Widowmaker. So basically, an aneurysm goes off in your chest.
Yeah.
And the only people I know who have survived that are people who had just happened to be in the hospital the time it happened. Right. So he's rushed into emergency surgery. And again, I'm not gonna, make no mistake. I mean, Drew and I, we're not, we had grown to be acquaintances, like I knew him and we only had good things to say about each other. So it wasn't in our lives constantly, but some bizarre thing happened on Monday night. And, it was about 3 a.m. All of a sudden I'm like up. And then, for some reason, we're getting the backpacks in from China. So, I'm constantly like, that's why the only reason I have my phone by my bed. But usually by the time I go up to bed, I unplug my phone and stick it away. Right. So, but I look at it and I see, Coach Drew Gibbs fighting for his life. And then, by the time I put it out like 7 a.m, then it already released that he had passed. Yeah. So, I can't imagine, what I know how I can't wrap my head around it, and I'm off in the distance now. I can't imagine his family and then his, the coaches on his team and his kids and, everyone. It's like, this is like just, it happens, but it doesn't happen. How many, this is like, beyond movie shit, where, the biggest game of the year, and your coach dies of a heart attack and he's a beloved guy and all that. So, so when I get to, people who want to be instructors, they want to lead people and they want to be, leaders of other human beings, you've got to hold yourself to, this moral standard, in my opinion, which is hard to do, of having the big three, because, we assume that everyone does. You assume. That's why when I hear people say, well, I'll just go down the road to the instructor down there, I'm like, who, you don't know what you're getting. I mean, and the problem is, like, when you go in there, you automatically put on this person, and this happens to everybody. You automatically put on this person that I'm making the commitment here. The person that I'm talking to is going to be like this guy, right? That's what, I'm assuming you're going to be. So everything that comes out of your mouth and every action that you do, is going to be coming from, this, someone who has the big three. And chances are they don't at all. You spend time enough with somebody, you spend enough time with somebody, you'll see, what they're really about. The longer you go down that road. He, one of my friends, another guy we coached, just told a funny story about when he was coaching wrestling, and we were playing wrestling a team called from Bloomfield, and these guys were good. They were like a powerhouse, and they were coming into our home, gym, and the week before, Gibbs like, we got a tough match coming up. He goes, I'm not gonna lie, these guys are really good. And everybody knew it. So they come in and they pin basically everybody in our lineup except one guy. So Drew's like, hey, after the match, he goes, look, me as a coach, he goes, I wasn't good. He's like, I sucked. He goes, our assistant coach, Bunzi, he sucked. Everyone else sucked except Ross, the one kid who pinned. He goes, he didn't suck. He goes, Monday we're wrestling East Side. He goes, and we're going to kick their ass. And he was absolutely right. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that was just, when you're dealing with people, especially, what I think when people, coaches deal with kids, I mean, you handle them the same way you handle adults. There's a certain level of honesty. And you take out the, because I said so, right? You just look at them, you're like, yo, this is going to suck, but we're going to get through it. It's that kind of thing, and not like, and there's no blame. There's the appropriate amount of accountability on your part and on their part. Like, how many times coaches turn around or somebody does something and it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that guy didn't do his job. This guy didn't do it. If that guy didn't do his job, then I didn't do enough to prepare him to do his job. That's the way I look at everything. Right. If something's going wrong with the business, I'm like, okay, what am I not doing to give these people all the tools they need to get to where I want them to do?
Yeah.
What can I do? Not, I called him and he didn't call me back. All right. You called one guy, you emailed one guy. How many times did you call them? Right. Okay. So now you got to do like 100 of them, not 100. You got to do 1,000. You got to just crank your numbers up and then get better at communicating and doing what you are trying to do. I mean, that's what happens. It's like, most people, they get into something and they're like, oh, I can't do this. It's not working. I mean, man, I'm like, you got to get in the batter's box a lot before you start getting some hits. So, this constantly, being honest with yourself and the people around you to the point where you're almost like crushing yourself, but then you don't want to do it too much because then you want to walk in front of a bus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's like him and my other head coach, Coach Stroker. It's another guy. Like, my high school football team had, like, no joke, like 3 legit awesome guys that I'm still friends with. I go to college, it's weird. You come from like a winning culture on one level and you go to college at another level and it's just like not there, and you're thinking that all of a sudden that, you're going to get the same shit you got before.
Yeah. And
you realize that, but part of the mechanism to kind of deal with that is to realize like, okay, you got to fall, you don't have great leadership. You got to fall back into the brotherhood or the sisterhood, be a part of the team and get into the team and get into your job. It's tough to do hard things when you're not inspired. It's tough to do hard things when the people who are driving you, don't care about who you are and don't care about what your feelings are and are willing to, screw, steal, lie, just because they feel they're entitled to. I mean, you can have the smartest tactician in the world. This is also the reason why, and I take, taking this into personal consideration when I started putting the training system together, because it's like, you're a decent athlete on any level and you have success on a certain level. It's very tough to communicate that to somebody who doesn't have the natural skills or experience that you do.
That's right.
And we often forget that, most people coming in, they're coming in from different areas. I mean, some people, get it. Some people take a little bit longer to get it. So, I just have, someone, training recently, and I'm like, look, I go, this person isn't doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm like, well, it's my job to get them to the point where they can do what they're supposed to do. That's, that's it. There's no other, there's no other excuse. I can say, oh, this didn't, practicing or watching or doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. I mean, that may be true, but then it's up to me to convey to them that that's what they should be doing.
That's right.
So who have you had in your life, George?
Wow. You know what? It's amazing. The person that I am probably the most drawn to right now, just with you talking about what you're talking about, is a student that I've had now for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Year and a half to 2 years, older
Uh-huh.
gentleman, and he's dying, lymphoma. There's absolutely nothing that can be done for him. But I think just with how real he is and just how he's accepted his situation and become so positive about stuff, right?
Right.
Has kind of changed my perspective because, growing up, I grew up not well to do, but fairly well to do. There wasn't a lot of struggles. We weren't wanting shit when we were younger. My father had a business. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. You take that for, you really just take that for advantage. You really, really do. And when you meet somebody who life has really beat the shit out of them,
Right.
and they can still be fucking more positive than you, it really changes your perspective on stuff. And he's been an
How old?
absolute breakout.
How old is he?
He's just turned 64,
Okay.
and he's been dealing with this cancer for the last, said, about 7 or 8 years. Right.
Now,
And
does he have a family?
yeah, he recently married. He's been with this woman for 25, almost 30 years. Finally married her.
Okay.
But that's it. He's got a brother. I've never met his brother, but when he came to me, he was struggling a lot, and through the working out together, the self-defense, that kind of thing, it's given him also kind of a new lease on life. His blood work has been, fantastic for the last few years. The doctors,
Okay.
keep saying to him, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Right.
So that's, that's a great thing. But it's just, he's really made me look at things a little bit differently. So,
Yeah.
it's so it's kind of opposite from your side of being, a coach who influenced you. For me, it was a student that influenced me more.
Right. And you get it. You get inspired. I mean, it's there. I think there's teaching and coaching and being coached and being taught is an exchange.
And it is, and you find somebody who like you talked about, having compassion, having knowledge about other things. Okay, he might not be knowledgeable when it comes to self-defense, but he's knowledgeable about other things that he's sharing with me. And over the last couple of years, we've become friends. I went to, when he married her, I went to his wedding, right? It's amazing the kind of relationship that you can form with people, right? And it's so unexpected, just out of the blue. I would have never thought. He found me, through a newspaper, because that's where he actually saw me, was in a newspaper ad a few years ago. And I haven't done newspapers in a long time, obviously, but yeah.
I mean, they sell them,
Yeah,
my mom.
It was little local paper.
It just so happened I posted, on Facebook about Drew, and it got picked up and actually put in print. So my mom's like, "You want the paper?" I'm like, "What am I going to do with that?"
That's right.
But yeah, your point, there's people like, look, we have like 18,000 plus members on the training site. And, there's a lot of people with a lot of experience that come from, for different reasons, with different, motivations as to why they're there and why at that point they click the button. I just, yeah, it's like, even, talk about Carl had like 1.5 of those things. He was really knowledgeable and had compassion and had a moral compass to an extent, but his life was so out of balance that I understand why that is. Because you would think of that. I would say Yanni would have, Ionescu would have more of that. But it was just, I'd see Yanni once or twice a week. It wasn't, and I was much older, so it wasn't like I was, looking for somebody in that capacity. But when you're dealing with even, young men and children, you've got to, it's like you have an impact on people that lasts so far, it's like you can still hear their voice in your head. I said I had like 3 good coaches growing up. I mean, my dad was my dad. He was also like my football and wrestling coach when I was a kid, but he was always my dad. And your dad, no matter what, if they're coaching you or not, they're always going to be your dad.
That's right.
So, I don't really count him in that regard. But, he, like people know when you give a shit, like really care about him, and that's where I think, guys like Drew, it's like when you ask somebody how you're doing and they really stop to listen to how you're doing. It's like they really will take a count and just, spend time. Right. And then, when these guys are, just, they're in it for, just the wins, or they're in it for winning. But like everything, it's like they always say, it's like, are you successful? Because especially with teams and groups, are you successful because you're it's a product of coaching and caring, or do you care about each other first and then the work and the process and everything gets, it's like, I don't know. I think these things happen at the same time. That's why when people talk about chemistry so much in, military teams and athletic teams and businesses, is that, I think these things happen simultaneously. And if you don't give a shit about the person to your right and the person to your left, you're not going to be very successful as a whole.
That's right.
There's one great book, Gates of Fire, right? Which I know you've probably read. And it's all about the Spartans' stand at Thermopylae. And the most important piece of equipment a Spartan had was his shield. So it was never left lying around. It was never more than arm's length away. And what made the shield so important is that in the phalanx, so in their attack formation, it protected the guy to your right. It didn't protect you. It protected the guy next to you. So at its very core, it was all about giving a shit about the other guy.
Yeah.
And they got that. You talk to anybody who was a part of a team, part of a military unit, and no one enjoys war and killing. I mean, if you do, you've got a fucking problem.
That's right.
Right. But what they miss is that brotherhood and camaraderie, which is inherent in us. I mean, it is a part of us. It's in our DNA. It's what we need to help survive, right? We've got to hunt. We've got to work together. We've all got, we all need jobs to do. And if you're not successful, I'm not going to be successful. So it's this whole built-in survival instinct or mechanism, if you will. So, that's what people miss. And that's why people re-enlist, and that's why they go back. Because, without a struggle, in this case, it's a football game. Without that struggle and that common enemy, and that goal of being one team. I mean, if everybody understood what it's like to go through something where you want and need everybody on your team to do great, and you depend on other people to do their job and they do it, a lot of this nonsense just wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
A lot of it. I mean, you understand the human condition. And you understand that, it's like, there's certain things that just kind of melt away. And all of this bullshit that we're dealing with would just be called what it is. Bullshit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to, acknowledge Drew. Again, you look up Drew Gibbs, see what the hell's going on. It's been covered by the news. I mean, there's shit. I've got the services this Saturday, and I know that's going to be, one of the, a 5,000 attendee kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the game next Friday after Thanksgiving, I don't even know what to expect. I mean, everyone's going to come out and play because, look, I just told my kid, I'm like, my daughter, I'm like, if I die, I'm like, and you got a performance or you got a game, I'm like, you're freaking going. I'm like, bury my shit later. I mean, don't stop because of me. I'm already dead.
That's right.
I mean, we're all cut from the same cloth, right?
Yeah.
Don't stop the world, God damn it. But, the kids on both sides and the coaches and the families, it's becoming something, it's something different now. I hope, and I feel it's going to be something great, and it's going to be something that none of them, I mean, granted, they're all playing for a state championship, but, none of them, are going to, ever forget it, win or lose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, going to be, man. I always like just seeing them on the other side, of the, on the other side of the court or the field, Yeah. It's just always great to see them, Yeah. So, I don't know, man. I don't feel like I can talk about anything else right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So look, I said, just again, there's people like this around you. Again, they're hard to find, but you can find them, so, or just try to be like that, understand what you do, care about what you do, care about the other people around you. Again,
what a great message overall, and I'm glad that you kind of went with the whole big three, right? Because I mean, everybody should strive to be that way, and I'm hoping, just to kind of put it in your head, maybe you do up a blog post about the big three specifically for our industry, right? The importance and what's out there, students, what to look for, instructors, how to be that type of person. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of self-defense instructors that are out there that, like you said, man, they do not have all three. Some of the very, and I'll say it, right, some of the very best instructors that are out there, I'll say the most knowledgeable instructors that are out there, definitely have the moral code of absolute shit, or just don't give a flying fuck about people in general. And at the end of the day, it's the bottom line: what's in it for me, what's going into my pocket, right? So yes, this is an important thing to discuss. It really is.
I'll put something together. I said, I just to understand that when you leadership comes from your heart, right? I mean, that's just, you've got to put yourself in front and, and put, actually, better said, put the people you're teaching and leading in front of your needs and wants and desires. But in a perfect world, they should all align.
Yes.
Right? So we want this goal. I'm going to make you better. This is how we're going to do it. And, you either buy into it or you don't. If, it's everybody taking accountability for their own actions and their own outcomes. So that's what, that's what really we got to, everybody, the responsibility of the student is to respect the process, and to conduct themselves in a way that, is, again, along the lines of the big three.
Yes.
This is, it's like I'm here. Okay. We exchange money or whatever for knowledge. And okay. As an instructor, you get the benefit of the doubt right off the bat. So, it's up to you to kind of guide them and just, operate within, those, guidelines of, hey, I'm like, we're going to keep the instructor student relationship. Possibly it would blossom into a friendship or something more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got guys, look, I'm one of like thousands, right? I had a little bit of, there's other kids that have been both coached by him and coached with him, so, this is, I'm part of a, fraternity in that sense. The guys that came through, these programs. Yeah. So anyway, next week we have American Thanksgiving, not whatever you do up in Canada.
I was going to say, that's not the real Thanksgiving. What's wrong with you?
Right. You don't even know why the hell you do it. So, I was trying to get it last week. If you didn't listen to the last podcast, I was trying to figure out what the hell Canadian Thanksgiving was all about. They were thankful for apparently the same shit, but there were no pilgrim stories. There were no, nothing with Indians or Native Americans or French or.
There may be. I just don't fucking know it.
You think you would have looked it up?
Well, you put me on the spot.
But that was a week ago. You would think it's for some reason you would look in your own. What the hell you do in your own country? Holy crap!
We just get turkey,
right? Which I make a good turkey. I can cook, by the way. So my son, it's funny. Like last year, because of COVID, we stayed home.
Yep.
And I made. So there's a guy that I follow, Binging with Babish. He's freaking great. He's great. He does a lot of stuff from like TV shows, and like he'll do like one string of episodes he did like all the food from like Seinfeld, right? Just stuff like that. So anyway, it does shit from like SpongeBob and. Yeah, and then he's got basics and stuff like that. So I did his turkey bit, and it came out great. He said it was the best moist turkey he's ever eaten. I'm like, all right. So now we're staying home again because my mother-in-law is not vaccinated, and it wasn't her. Let's just put it this way. It was decided that we might not, we're going to see her on a different date when there's less people around. So we're actually going down there Sunday. But anyway, so we're home again. So we're cooking again, and another friend families, because we're doing kind of like a friends family Thanksgiving, which is going to be nice. So we don't have to I don't have to leave, put on football, cooking some bread, cooking my tres leches, and
eat like a pig and then not eat for a few days after. And...
Yeah, well, I'm ramping up or ramping down. I'm like, I'll be started limiting my caloric intake the last couple of days because I got to get down. I was up around 189. I got to get down to like 84 before I go in. And then I got to circle back down to I want to get to like 184 under before Christmas hits, because we do Christmas Eve too.
Yeah.
Not like the freaking, Italian fishes and all the other stuff. And we have about 2 years ago we had like 70 people, but now I don't know who, we'll know when we get there, but it's usually about 40 or 50. And it's it's a good time. So yeah, that's it. So we're off next week. And so what else you got going on?
Man, yesterday we had the first bit of snow here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's starting up.
Oh, I thought it's, wait. Oh no, now it's not global warming. Of course, it's climate change, which
That's
means they can't be wrong.
Of course.
It's like if it's global warming and it's colder, they're like, what happened to global warming? Oh yeah, they're like, that's not good. So it's climate change.
That's right.
So anytime they look, the climate changed. Yeah, of course it did. And it's always going to until the end of freaking time. So yeah, whatever. I know the climate is changing. I don't know what we have to do with it. Because even if we go all green, it's really only like 15% or give or take of like the world's actual emissions. You got China, you got India, all these other countries that are, industrializing, using a lot of coal, using, a lot of, they're not exactly kind to the environment as we are. Yeah. So, again, more smoke and mirrors for everybody to be just preoccupied by some other nonsense. So what's going on with the instructor program?
Yeah, so you know what I mean. The instructors and the instructors, right? Love them to death, but I mean it's been a little quiet. I think that COVID has slowed down quite a few people. Hopefully now they're starting to see some changes around the world, and going to get back on point with what we need to be getting back on point with.
Yeah.
We are obviously here always looking for new team members as well, people who want to come on board, who want to better themselves and help people. Perfect. If you have the big three, contact us.
Right. We'll coach you up.
Yeah, we'll definitely. And, I mean, talking about the instructor program, it's seen changes over the years. We've added some stuff. We've taken some stuff away. But, I mean, there really is no better time than now to start laying that foundation, because there's been such a change in the industry due to COVID. And even now, you're not getting a lot of people going back to the same kind of traditional training the way that they were. And we are by far the leaders when it comes to online and web-based training. And it's, it's a good opportunity for you guys to get plugged in and to be able to either improve your current situation as an instructor or start something, as a secondary project or a first project, depending on, where you are in life and what's happened with your, existing situation. Will we eventually go back to live training? Yeah, there'll be some live training, but I think that now there's always going to be a need for online. I think it's going to be a healthy mix between the two. And this is something we've been doing long before all the others started doing it.
Only because, again, we realized long ago that more people, like, only a certain small percentage of people are going to be able to sustain any type of in-person training.
Yes.
Right. So, it's like, I think, back when I had the actual physical locations, it was like, 5% actually will stay past, 10% will, 20% will stay past a month. And like at the end of the day, like 0.5% will actually get their black belts, stay all the way through. So that's like, let's just say that's a 4-year process on average. So, I mean, things happen, you get injured, your life changes, you have, kids, you change your job, all that stuff. So, this way we do, it's like, the call would be like tethered training, where, you're training online and then occasionally get with your instructor and get with them as much as you can, and then just go back and review and then continue to do it when you're away. So this way you can always stay connected to it. And our goal is like, look, we can have you fully trained up within like 12 months.
That's right.
I mean, literally like black belt level stuff. I mean, look, we're not sparring. We're not, doing forms and all the other stuff. And, you're just learning, combatives, which are simple and straightforward. So, you want to, spend years doing that. Yeah. We call them instructors. I'm like, if you just want to get trained up, it shouldn't take you more than 6 to 12 months to get where you need to be. Even in the one-shot fight enders course, I map out like a 10,000 technique circuit.
Yeah.
And you're like, look, you do this 10 times each, 3 times a day for, which is about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And you do it 3 times a week. I go, you'll be at that number within like 6 to 8 months, a year. And I go, yeah, by the end, you're going to be able to destroy, you're going to destroy what you hit. And there's no doubt about it. So, everything's there. And plus, we help you, coach, we're coaching you on how to talk to people, how to, promote yourself. I think that's the hardest part for anybody is like, what do I charge for this stuff?
Yeah, I mean that is definitely one of the questions that is constantly being asked, or just how do I actually structure the teaching? And we've got the system already there structured for you. If you've been in the game longer, you're coming from somewhere with a previous background, then hey, you can take this material and structure it the way you want to structure it yourself, no problem. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that.
Right.
And I think the biggest, I'm not going to call it a problem, but the biggest setback to where we currently are is, a lot of our members don't realize that we've actually got access to some amazing instructors. We're not just an online video program. The online videos are great and they're going to help you, but we are so much more than just that.
Right. We can do this and train you.
Yeah.
And we'll take you through and show you exactly where and how to set your stuff up and what you're doing. Pick your elbow up, chin down, drive, all that stuff. Answer your questions and certify you and put you through tests just like you would if we were in person anyway.
Well, this is it. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I always say to new members who actually realize, hey, there's an instructor here is like, look, there is so much content within the self-defense training system that you're never going to need to look anywhere else. We've got stuff to last you for the fucking rest of your life. But that can be overwhelming for a person who comes on board. Like, where the hell do I start? Right. So by having a simple discussion with an instructor like you and I are doing right now, we can figure out what your specific needs are and, set you up with the material in a way that's going to make sense for your situation. So you're not fucking spinning your wheels right at the very beginning and getting overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I think what people also assume, and this comes from, the martial arts model, is like, you have to master everything. That's right. Your training is an exploration of like what fits you best.
That's right.
Right. Like when you were teaching back when I was teaching Taekwondo, it was like, all right, you needed to freaking do a jump spinning back kick. Well, I can try to, someone, guys that were like in their freaking 50s and not in great shape, it can't, they got, orthopedic issues, right? And they're, are 60 or more. And they're jump spinning back kick. It's like, all right, what are we doing here? It's like, why are we even bothering with this? Get rid of that thing. Why make that person do it? Right. So it's like all the time that they spent trying to perfect something that they're not going to perfect or even come close to making anything useful.
Yes.
You could have just been, do the reverse punch. I understand you're trying it. I understand you're doing, but come on. Right. So, I mean, people actually failing because of it.
Yeah.
Awful. So when people say, well, I can't do that, I can't do it, it's like, okay, pick what you can do. All you really need is like one thing.
Yeah.
And if you can get 2 or 3 things, then that's really all you're going to use. And then you're going to apply those to any situation. And then we're going to add weapons to it. And it's going to be the same core, tactic, core motor skill set. So, you really, have to, just be like, okay, it's like, I'm going through this. It's a set of tools. It's like, I'm going to use this. I'm going to shit can this. I'm going to, this I'm going to really get good at. And sometimes that even changes throughout your life too. So, it's a journey. It's a real journey. And I said, like, we'll get you, in a month, you'll be competent in walking around I mean,
That's right.
really. And then, 6 months to a year, depending on how often and your baseline, you'll be more than good to go if you're willing to do it. And we're talking like once, twice a week in place of your, treadmill. You just you go through the drills and then get with an instructor once or twice a month to see, where you are, and then set up your training for the next set of weeks.
Yeah.
Like, okay, dude, you're going to look at module 1, and this is, these are the units you're going to go through. This is why you're doing this. I mean, I've had guys that are just like, oh, I didn't see that. I go, everything is there. Everything is there. We got guys now, like, it's weird. It's like there's like new waves of people that come in and comment, every couple weeks. So it's funny. It's like we're all going through the same, revelations,
I gotta say to you, because I saw it this morning and just about pissed myself fucking laughing. I haven't had a chance to talk about it, but there was a comment that was made on one of our forums, and he was thankful, right? And it was along the lines of, thank you for your training, Damien. This has given me so much confidence to, and I quote, walk around at night in dangerous places.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, why are you walking around at night in dangerous places, dude? Like, what is going on?
Right. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
You don't really understand what self-defense is all about, unless you're fucking forced to doing this. But
right.
I wanted to respond to like, no, he's thankful.
Right. Oh my God. So I think, I know I had like Kyle Rittenhouse on here and a couple things, but I think that verdict is coming in. I don't know what's going on. So, people have to understand, that how important this is, that, the right to defend yourself.
Yes.
I mean, and this is what gets me on both sides of the aisle, is that, that could easily be you. So it's, you gotta drop what your, political alignment, forget what your politics are. If it was the opposite, where a BLM protester shot someone, a Trump supporter in a MAGA hat who was trying to break their head open with a skateboard, or trying to, grab their weapon, or finally pointing a weapon at them, you want the right to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah.
So, it's universal. And that's where I think, you need to be able to say what you want. You need to be able to protect yourself. I mean, freedom of speech and your right to self-defense, which is essentially what the Second Amendment is. The reason why they're 1 and 2, the most important. They're not 7 and 8.
But there's such a thin line with it too. And I had a discussion the other day, and this will be for another podcast, but I'll just touch on it really quick. Guys, give you something to think about. There's instructors that are out there, and yes, we train for the worst case scenario. Within combatives, that's what we do. But you'll see these extreme, like a party here. You'll see these extreme responses, and take the person down, stomp on their head fucking 10 times, and that's how you finish the drill. And not every situation deems lethal force, and the problem is there's some instructors that are out there, and that's all that they're fucking holding on to right now.
Right.
So
right.
Be aware of that, guys, because our world now is it's just crazy with the way people look at stuff, and just people get offended over a bottle of fucking Aunt Jemima syrup. So you run the risk.
And by the way, that family was all pissed off because they're still getting royalties from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what people are feeling offensive, and there's also, definitely a vibe of, because people feel they can do anything physical and think that you're not, because you're right, because they feel they're right.
there
like
won't be
if
ramifications.
I say something offensive to you, now it's like, oh, you offended me, or micro threat, or whatever the fuck it is, and now I can use force to attack you. And by the way, you can't do anything to me because I'm right. I mean, that's kind of where it
Yeah.
is. I'm like, look, if you get in my face in a threatening manner, if you threaten me or my loved ones or even my property, I have a right to protect it.
Yep.
Within reasonable means, if you are a credible threat. I think, it's weird. I'm just also seeing like, especially like women now are getting like more and more aggressive. Like the story last week, again, it's just like holding the door open for somebody.
Yeah.
Just being polite. And her freaking yelling at me. Holy crap. I was like, I'm like, whatever. I'm not engaging. I'm not acknowledging. I just walk by. Because there is no good thing that's coming from that.
No, there isn't, and that's the reality of self-defense, right? So I mean, whether you're the aggressor, whether you're the intended victim, whichever side of the equation, it ends up bad for everybody involved.
Right.
So having the right and we talk about having the right mindset, and just going back to proper situational awareness, and it comes back to the comment that you talked about. Was it last week that we were talking about it, or the week before, with the guy who messaged you, there's nothing useful on here,
right?
Motherfucker, you didn't watch any of this, clearly.
Right, obviously. Or usually come in with your own whatever your preconception is. It's you're getting the truth. You're either like, I get if you say, oh, I know this kind of shit already. Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. I'm like, well, some people have been, fed, some people understand it. Most of them, most of the people get it confused with, common sense, right? It's like, oh yeah, I could have thought of that. Yeah, but you didn't.
That's right. Common sense ain't so fucking common, is it?
Right. And, you're here to be like, yeah, and it's supposed to make sense and align and fit in what you would probably normally do. So it's not like, you trying to levitate, or some other shitstorm of an idea, so, the people, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. So again, we get back to like, your ability and your right to protect yourself. That's what's happening next, and that's what's going next.
Yes.
I just, I hope, the Rittenhouse thing, and then that other shooting with the dad and the son down in Florida. Now that's coming out that those guys were okay. Like that shit was okay. They made it seem like there were a couple of white supremacists, neighborhood watch, just shooting a black guy. And now it's coming out that the property was burglarized before. I was just listening to the testimony, the cross-examination from the defense examination of one of the defendants, the son. I think it's a Marbury case I'm talking about, if I'm saying the name correctly. So anyway,
I think it is.
So the way he put it was that came out of, they saw the guy, they had, they knew that the property had been broken into before. So they knew why they were, that person was there. Person, he drew his, he got his weapon and his phone, called 911, handed the phone to his dad, had the weapon. The guy started coming to him, and then he started passing him. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I was just going to let him go. He's like, what do you mean let him go? It's like, he was going, the cops were coming. He's like, I'm, not going to, he's not endangering me, my dad, or my truck. He's like, he was going. And then he turned and came back and then started running, was running at him. And then that's when he fired. And you're going to find that they're probably going to get acquitted. And, you want them to get acquitted. It's like, you want to root on the side of defending yourself. It's not like he It's not like, the guy was running away. It's not like the guy had his hands up. It's not like the guy wasn't moving towards him in any manner. Someone's trained a gun on you, and you are, and you have the ability to escape. Just escape. Just escape.
Yeah.
If they're not a cop. Right? So, if the guy just left the scene, nothing, would have happened. And then there's people like, well, if they weren't out patrolling with a gun, look, you don't know, you've got the right to protect yourself and defend your neighborhood. And that's it. That's it. That's what that's what the Second Amendment's about. So, you want to sit there and be like, listen, if you can make your personal choice to, not, take up arms or take up training and protect yourself, that's fine. But don't impose your will on me. I'm not sitting here telling you that you got to train. I'm not sitting here telling you that you've got to, own a firearm or own a weapon or do anything. I'm not telling you that. But shit, don't tell me I can't. And don't, if that's the case, just don't be around me. Because people feel uncomfortable about this stuff is because it exposes their own weaknesses and inadequacies.
Yeah.
They're the ones that see that and you're doing something and you're like, wow, you're doing that. That makes me feel uncomfortable because I don't feel comfortable doing that. So you should stop doing that. Why? Because, well, why would you need that? Is because I have the ability and the will to stop someone imposing their will on me. Right. That's where, these guys, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, so, watching this stuff and listening to these things and the mindless, senseless, and the poor, Kyle Rittenhouse is on the stand and he's crying, and then you get shit like LeBron James posting, about, what do you have, like lemon drops and whatever crap. I'm like, dude, I go, just stop. I go, someone's got to get in that dude's head. I'm like, bro, you just got to stop. What are you doing? I think he has too many yes people around him.
Yeah. And I mean, and if that kid is found fucking guilty on that, well, that's what, life in prison, isn't it, he's facing?
Right. But again, it's like, I don't think it's, again, I think he's coming. I think he's getting acquitted.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised as well if it went any other way.
So. I mean, the judge was very clear about it. I mean, shit, when the judge was like, the prosecutor is asking him why he was silent when he first got arrested. I'm like, this is Miranda. This is like attorney 101.
Yeah.
If you ever get arrested, they tell you, don't say a word.
Yeah, shut up.
You have the right to remain silent.
Yeah.
Okay. Because reality is, as much as we support law enforcement, they're looking to freaking build a case from Jump Street.
Yep.
And if they like you for something, things are going to be framed in a certain way that, are going to make you attractive to a prosecutor. Now, the one thing I don't like what we're able to do is that law enforcement, when interrogating a suspect, can lie to them. Other countries, I don't think there's other countries where, I don't think you can, where it's like, well, like we're in two rooms and they're like, well, George just said you did it. Right. You didn't say shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's like, you can bend it to be like, well, it's our job to get the truth out of them. But it's like, no, if I'm guilty and I feel that, you gave me up, I'm just going to say fucking George did it.
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm innocent and you threw me under the bus, I'm like, fucking George threw me under the bus.
That's right.
So it's the chances of me flipping on you are really high. So, yeah, there's that. And this is why you have an attorney. And this is why you get an attorney, from stopping you from saying stupid shit.
Yeah.
Because this is when they do all that stuff. So if you watch the first 48, and if you haven't, go back, watch it. Everyone who gets a lawyer gets away. Everyone. Sure. Lawyer, please. Okay, Johnny got let go, and at the end, and she goes, "Yeah, no shit, no shit." So, all right, man, we went over an hour. I want to thank everybody for coming in. We had some people come in late, not a lot of comments this week, but I appreciate it. We'll post this. We're not going to be live next weekend, but we will be the following weekend because we've got the fake Thanksgiving next weekend.
Yes.
Or next Thursday. So, okay. Until next time, train honestly.